Hello.
Hi, Sharon. This is Taiba.
Hi, Taiba. Thanks for calling in.
So thanks for letting me in.
Okay.
Oh, and this is being televised, just so you know.
Session is being streamed live on our internet page. And it's automatically. So even though you don't see somebody back there, it's being done. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Here.
Mrs. Rose? Here. Dr. Ruggles? Ms. Sultana?
Here.
Mayor Panto?
Here. Okay, we're going to do HR, then police, then planning and codes.
Oh, sorry. Whatever.
So HR, Estelle, come on up. Oh, you want to? I forgot. I was supposed to turn it over to you first.
That's okay. Thank you, Mayor. I placed a printout for all of you to basically discuss a couple of items. Actually, bring them up on the screen as well. In short, in going through the budget, we found that I had missed a couple of line items. So they're highlighted in kind of the peach-orange color here. So what I've proposed is gone through the budget and made some, again, proposed adjustments to what the mayor had presented back in early October. So I would ask that you consider that as part of the budget review process. Yeah.
Was the dollar amounts in the budget, just not the line item breakout? Or
No, the dollar amounts were missed. So say the 70,000, these items here
Yep.
were missed
Okay.
in my initial consolidation of the
Let me just, there's a zero net impact. Zero net impact to the budget. So, but we wanted to highlight them for you
Appreciate
all.
it. Thank you.
All right, it doesn't change anything that you're doing.
Okay, so with that, we'll start with Estelle and HR.
So the proposed budget, the second column is the right column.
Let's see here, I believe so. Yes, the second column is the red column, correct. Is the right column, or the one I would propose,
Okay.
or as being reviewed.
Hey, Estelle.
HR back up there.
You have
Okay.
4 lines.
All right, Jerry, thank you. The Human Resource 2020-26 budget is as followed. For healthcare, I'll look this way so I can. We're seeing an increase of 20%. That's 936,000. In 2024, we signed with a new broker, BSI. BSI continues to give us benefit information, which ranges from data and resources. It's helping us manage a little bit better and understand where our costs are really at versus assumptions of cost. In this graph here, it shows a radius of 2018 all the way up to 2026 of where we are looking at our healthcare costs. In 2026, the administration will be making some changes. One of the highlighted changes that we want to talk about is tier changes. We'll be doing an employee plus spouse, employee plus children and or children, and family coverage. Currently, how it breaks down, it's employee or family. And then Lewis and I are working on some additional changes that we will present to you at a later time.
Can you go back? Let's go back. All right, this is a fairly large increase year over year. So I just want to make sure council understands this number. This is almost $1 million. Go ahead.
Louis, when you say year over year, but we're not expecting to see 20% increases every year in healthcare, correct? What's the trend up to this point?
We possibly could. As the trend is going on, we see that our healthcare costs are in fact increasing in larger quantities.
We're still less expensive than if we weren't self-insured.
Correct.
Yeah, we've been lucky that if you look at the bar graph, the line graph here. Prior to COVID, like in the 2020, 2021, it looks fairly flat. We actually saw about, we were lower than the market. We were roughly around like 4%, 4.5% on healthcare costs. It was actually pretty good. We were pretty flat. That's why you didn't see a lot of changes, if you will, to our plans. Couple things happened. One of them I would say is healthcare inflation externally. Internally, you could just have more claims, but externally there was inflation, and it drove up costs. As Estelle said, we've also benefited from changing brokers by getting a lot more insight into our healthcare data. So this is an adjustment, as you're alluding to, Mr. Pinnabone, of a 20% increase. These are based on actuals, but I think moving forward, we don't know, but it could be a combination of continued inflation, claims, and then how we manage the plan internally. So now, from a basic two-part plan, which is basically single and family, we have to divide it because it's more complex than that, and we're making some changes. Look, I do want to say something though, because in case employees are listening right now to this presentation, we still want to be very, very competitive in the market because we know, municipal salaries are lower than the private sector. And one way we attract folks is by having a good healthcare plan. So do I see a 20% increase in employee contributions and also deductibles? No, not necessarily. But we're working through those numbers. Do I see a multi-year approach? Most likely. But we're still working through those numbers, and we're going to come back to you. There are some changes that we are contemplating, including this multi-tier plan, and some things that have helped us out that are still coming to fruition and that we've been active on. For example, we've separated or we parsed out what's called the prescription drugs. That has saved us several $100,000 over the years. And we're doing some other things that could be beneficial. I wanted to pause on this because, Stell's going to go through some of the other slides, but this is extremely important. This is $1 million increase on our overall budget, which is fairly flat. If we didn't have this increase,
Be less than 1%.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I just wanted to bring that point up. This is the biggest increase that we have, and it happens to be the first slide. So I wanted to make sure everyone understood it.
And the first presentation.
In the first presentation, thanks.
Off big.
Estelle, and for our new folks listening, how many years have you been here now, and what's your team? Tell us a little bit about your team.
I have been here almost 3 years this coming January.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's gone fast. And the HR department is a team of 3, myself, Shakira, and Michelle. So we manage all of the hiring, recruiting, processing, benefits, HR-related, any HR-related topics we handle.
For 250 employees.
All right, so that was a big slide. I guess if there's no questions, we'll just move on.
Yeah, I just was looking to see if there's any questions.
No.
Okay, the next slide.
Speaking to the mic, too.
The next slide is the employee HR compensation. Our department specifically, year over year, our increases are driven by salaries. The city is budgeting a 3% increase for 2026. So that's where you see my expenses in the HR department. With the increase of the offset by decreasing in legal expenses, 2025 saw contract negotiations. So we're going to use less in legal expenses, knowing that we're not going to go to arbitration. We were able to complete the police contract and the fire contract. We're currently in negotiations with ASME, and next year we will return to negotiations for fire because we only did a 2-year contract with them. Any questions?
Can I, what, yeah, Estelle, just one
Yes.
question. What made you go to the switch and do a tier? Is the market, that, told you, hey, we might wanna look at that?
So there's a few factors that we looked at. One is BSI, our broker,
Broker?
brought that to our attention that could help kind of not cut costs, but kind of level out costs for us. And then if you look, at other municipalities, cities, they're doing that also, if not already doing it. So it was kind of like a two-side there that would benefit for us.
Okay.
Louis, is there any other? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, workers' comp. Workers' comp, there'll be a 0 increase for the 2026 year. Very happy about that. We continue to work with PMA, which is our third-party administrator. We do quarterly meetings with them. We review all the information. We personally enter all the claims that come in, so we're on like more of a hands-on, so we can kind of control, and we work with the doctors in St. Luke's mainly to make sure that our employees are receiving the care they need, but also following through with their care so that they get better and ultimately get back to work.
And most importantly here is, because I was in this area for when I was vice president of coordinated health, employee health care was my area, is the safety issues. We're making sure, if you notice when you get a city car, it has an orange seat belt so we can actually see that they're wearing their seat belt. I mean, those things are important. If they should unfortunately have an accident, that they will be protected. We also make sure that the trenches are shored up before they go down there, so we don't have anybody be buried alive like they had in Wilson Borough. Good friend of mine. We also make sure, and it's kind of hard. City employees don't feel they have to wear the safety protection that they should, and they are wearing it. The hard hats, the gloves, the steel-tip shoes that we buy for them, they are wearing them, so that's good.
Does the city mayor have a safety committee?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a safety committee. As a matter of fact, Estelle has arranged and Chad Gruber has arranged for fire extinguisher training
Got seen that.
for all the employees in City Hall. So we're looking forward to that next week.
Lewis Electric, bike? No.
I don't write.
So,
He's not allowed to keep it inside the building.
in addition to the fire extinguisher training, we actually had our first fire drill this year, which went very well. Everyone knew about it up front.
First in many years.
First in many years.
Couple years, yeah.
So everyone got out safely. They got to their points. We were able to make sure that everyone got out, and then we came back in and resumed normal business.
One thing that we don't talk about, but PMA is actually consulting us on our safety committee, which is our risk management, basically our risk management committee, with regards to our like mostly it affects our public works, but we do talk about it's police and fire, and everyone else. But with that, PMA has been aggressive in meetings with us and is helping us maintain, which I haven't talked about it, our self-insurance status, which is a pretty big deal, especially at this point in time since we've been self-insured for so many years. So there's a lot going on. In addition to what the mayor had said, there are like bookloads of policy manuals and other items that we're going through.
Yeah, and Louis touched on that, but for the state audit that we received, we're partnering with PMA, which is what he just explained. Okay, for salaries, for 2026, new positions will be an electrician, and that will be for Public Works. In 2026, positions that will be eliminated that the mayor had already spoke about in his budget presentation is for legal, the third solicitor. For DCED, the program administration position will not be filled, and finance clerk, the third clerk, will not be filled. In 2026, we're going to have some pay adjustments, which will include the IT department, Public Works, the finance department, codes, and the pay adjustment that the mayor spoke about in his presentation, which is a $2,000 pay adjustment for all directors, which does not include the chief of police, chief of fire, the deputy of fire. And then the overall increases for 2026 will be.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Steph,
go ahead.
Can you go back? Just a question. The public works pay adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really know, I know we can't talk too much personnel. We don't really know what that would look like, right? Since Louis, you're still negotiating right now?
No, which ones are you talking about?
The 26, pay adjustments, public works, second bullet.
For January?
That was the agreement.
I think this is a personnel items, but there's there's an adjustment that we had to make, which council,
Approved.
actually, council's gonna have to approve in this budget. I can go, I think I can go, I don't,
You can talk about the position, not the person.
And you don't need to do all that right now. I'm just asking you, so this is
it
like.
has, this
individual,
is
it's not a-
non-union, this is
like-
non-union.
It's not
Okay,
union.
so
It affects the
okay.
engineering department.
So you can
specifically.
deal with it without negotiation. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, it's not- it's not-
that was
it's
just,
not
that's a
absolute.
summary, it's a non-union employee.
Okay.
Yeah, the IT, Public Works, Finance, and Codes position are all non-union positions.
That's right, because the union, slide was the previous slide, which talked about,
3%.
the increases, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. And the last slide
Oh,
is
I meant the last slide.
the
is
2026
I
increases.
knew I didn't say it.
This is the
That's
union,
okay.
slide, sorry, yeah.
Administration increase is projected for 3%. ASME is we're still negotiating. Fire, we have a 2-year contract. Negotiations will start shortly next year for a 4.5 increase for 2026, and police a 4.5 for 2026. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Estelle.
Thank you.
Chief Scalzo, you're up.
Still, you were up there so long.
Wait, I thought codes.
Nope.
Codes is cool.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
He made me get new glasses, but I got it under my,
Really? Throw me under the bus.
All right.
It's up to you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief Scalzo, Chief of the Easton Police Department. This is my 14th budget hearing. Actually, it's my 15th. I did one when I was a captain right before I came in, so it's my 15th budget hearing. So we're going to go over a little bit tonight, just the kind of oversight as to where the budget, where it is, where we kind of, where we kind of manage or saw ourselves going into next year as far as overages or deficiencies, and then go over the line items. I'm not going to go over every line item independently. What you're going to find is that there's really one specific area that that ultimately created or is going to create my budget issues for the year. Okay, so the first one just kind of shows the proposed budget and what we're seeing as far as an increase or a decrease. We're actually going to see an increase this year of 4.75%. And the big issue in talking with Mark is going to be actually an increase in healthcare coverage. That's 20.1%. So that increase, when you look at the total numbers, as far as what our increase is, as far as dollar amount, that 20.1% is a large portion of it. And then an 11.69% in increase in salary based on the current collective bargaining agreement. So you're not going to see a lot of increases in my operational budget. That the operational budget is things from equipment, training, all of those things that we use through the course of the year to do the job. We saw about a 1.43 operating budget increase. So the total increase for the and this is not including traffic, was $612,000, and again that falls predominantly on those increases in health and in police salaries, and it's about $13,000 increase, and we can go over where those things are being created within the budget, but that's the increase as far as the operational side, which is what we really try to kind of manage from a chief perspective, because obviously salaries and benefits, those things are out of my control. Looking at the traffic division, it's a 0.76 increase, which is about just shy of $6,000 on that side of the budget. That is a major operation. I would mention that we are the only city or major city here in the Lehigh Valley who runs a traffic operation out of the department. Most are done through an outside agency that does their traffic enforcement. But we run it through our department, which I think is a little bit more effective from the standpoint of giving you, council, and the mayors more control, and the city administration a little bit more control over the operation as to setting fees and those types of things. All we do is the enforcement side, but by doing it through the department in the city, it takes it away from losing that control. So the overall budget expense increase was about 4.5%. So if you want to go to the first slide, second slide, sorry, Mark, thank you. That's my my organizational chart. That's actually in the packet that I gave you, which you can see a little bit clearer. The reason I put that in there is because this is where a lot of the expenses are coming from this year, just because we're hiring 5 brand new officers who are going to be out of the academy middle of, so they're already hired, but they'll be out of the academy middle of December. But we're also going into next year with at least 2 more vacancies and another expected 2 through the course of the year. So we're going to have 4 vacancies to start the year on top of the 5 guys coming out of the academy. With those comes cost for the academy, which is just around $6,000 per student. So the more that we're putting into the academy, the more that we're spending or have to allot for. Also, we have to outfit, and there's a lot of training equipment, those types of things that go along with new hires. So that is one of the areas where we see, as far as operational budget, you'll see some increases there as well. As you can see, most of my vacancies are carried in the patrol division. So when these 5 guys get out, these 5 officers get out, we'll actually fill the 5 vacancies that we currently have. But like I said, we're going to be expecting to have upwards of 4 more early on in the year, anywhere between January and April. So and those are all pretty much suspected, if not guaranteed, vacancies. Okay, so now,
Due to retirement? Right.
my retirement.
No, due to their retirement. Right.
Due to
Yes,
retirements, exactly. Yep. So if you go to the very first page of the budget, what this basically will represent is you'll see the line items in a little bit of a larger format. I highlighted in yellow the mayor's proposed budget, which sits next to last year's budget, and also towards the year to date. So some of these things you'll see, as far as year to date, and I don't know exactly when the year to date was pulled, but in June. So those numbers would show you kind of where we're at, and then obviously the 25 budget compares to where we're going next year. Most of these line items, for the most part, find themselves either a little bit lower or the same as they were last year, or if there is any increases, you'll find them, as far as overall line items, you'll find them anywhere between like $1,000 to $3,000. So nothing of really of note. I don't have any major projects that I'm coming in here to speak of. We are working to build a new evidence facility, but we're working on some grant funding and some other methods to fund that. So I'm not making any requests at this time for funding for that project. But other than that, there was no major asks. Like I said, other than the manpower issues that I'm hoping to be able to fill as soon as the vacancies arise. So the goal would be to fill those vacancies for the June academy and have those officers out next year by December and start field training. So if you want to just look down, again, I'm not going to go through each and every line item. If you see anything that would jump out, like I said, most are exactly where they were last year. One area where, I talked again a little bit to Mark, one area where we're seeing a large uptick is in our traffic division, where we're seeing the expenditures on the actual utilization of the credit card fees is continuing to rise, both because of new meters brought online and also because of a lot of use, or the use increasing exponentially. So as the use increases and credit card use increases, obviously the fees that we pay for that use increase. So it's really not, a cost to the city in that it's coming through because of utilization and citizens and visitors spending money. But it is something that we budget for, that we have to pay. And so as that number goes up, the line item in my traffic absorbs that and is creating, I think, a bit of a squeeze there, where I think in years to come, if not, looking at this year, it's going to be really tight. Do we want to speak about there is one area that, if you look at the numbers here, as I was preparing this, last year's budget, if you would look at the,
Chief, I think we addressed that.
you
I think
addressed
at
that in the
start.
beginning, so that was
Right,
covered in
right,
that?
Correct, that was
Perfect.
one of the three line items that I.
Perfect. And so that was actually, it falls onto my budget, and so I just wanted to bring that up. Does anybody have any questions in reference to the line items that they're looking at in reference to, what I have before you? Before we move into revenues?
Wake us all up.
Everybody's paying attention? So if we guys want to move on, we can move on to revenues, or did anybody have anything in reference to expenditures before? Again, there was nothing in there of any kind of extreme note that I would feel the need to kind of explain as to an increase or even a decrease. Everything kind of is going to hold pretty close to where we were last year, and those numbers are coming in where we would have expected this year.
Go to revenues.
I'm just looking. Good. Oh, okay. Okay, so we can move into revenues now. Before we start talking about revenues, the one thing I always try to stress is that when it comes to what we do as a police agency, revenues are something that come because of what we do, not as a measure or anything of what we do. So we're out there trying to keep the streets safe. We try to, same thing with parking. Everything that we do is for public safety purposes. The revenue stuff is I talked to you about it just because obviously those numbers are there, but it's not something that we do as far as a revenue generating type organization. We're out there basically doing the job for public safety, and these are things that just kind of come along with that as of our responsibility. So we can go down and these are estimates as to what the administration and I would expect to see when it comes to the general revenue that would be coming in based on some of the things that we do. Most of those we held pretty flat based on where we are year to date. They look like those numbers would hold. We did see increases in the crossing guard money that had to go, and what that is the way that works is the crossing guards are a joint operation between the city and the school district, and so what would happen there is I believe we pay it and the school district reimburses us, and that's that reimbursement. And so that is what you're seeing is basically an increase in the cost of crossing guards. It is one of the best things that we have done to allow an outside entity to manage that, because it is a lot to manage crossing guards, and this has worked really well, but obviously that comes at a cost, and so as that goes up, the amount that we pay goes up and ultimately get reimbursed goes up. Police service charges, again, there's an estimate of an increase there. And I just want to make sure I have, so, and a lot of these that you'll see are in and out. So, so these are revenues that come in, but are spent in my expenditure and are attached to different line items or expenditure line items. So again, they would be neutral, cost neutral, and non-impactful on the budget. And then the remainder of them are all pretty much staying the same.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chief Scalzo?
And then give them
Yes,
Go ahead.
Chief.
Yep.
I have, at the end, some amendments I'm gonna bring up.
Okay.
One question I have is, can we enlist our police officers throughout their travels when they're not ripping and running on downtime to do more parking enforcement in the neighborhood? And I want to be very clear, especially since we're live. I'm not asking the police department to go balance the budget on parking tickets or things of that nature. However, personally, and I know others here are getting a tremendous amount of calls of cars being parked too far past the corner on the yellow lines, and especially in College Hill, Southside, West Ward, especially. And you know, I have a proposal that would add a parking enforcement officer, but still at those levels, you know, we're not going to really hit those quality of life issues that I think we should. So, is it possible that you instruct our police officers to try to focus a little more on that during their downtime or their patrols when they're not?
Absolutely. It's an interest. Parking is obviously something that is it's kind of a living, breathing thing, and I would say that we absolutely, as a police entity, are responsible for the safety as it pertains to parking in the city of Easton. So our officers, that's not something that it's like a new request or ask or anything like that. I would, as the chief, take full responsibility for where things stand. So I wouldn't want to say that the officers aren't doing exactly what I've asked them to do, because they are. The challenge that we have is that we try to balance a city that was not designed for the number of cars that are currently in it and a number of cars that need to park in it. So we try to balance reasonableness with safety. And so to that end, you know, we're very cautious about going out and just, because I mean, we could write a lot of violations. So it's one of those things that we try to manage. And so typically, you know, if we see something that's egregious, we'll write that. If we get a call from somebody and says this has been a problem or this is a problem, we'll look at those situations and we'll write them. So, but to answer your question, we can actually certainly have an uptick in you know, in the level of enforcement that we're doing, as far as you know, what we're actually looking at and rising to the level of a parking ticket. So the only thing I would caution is we've gone down this road in the past, and it always ends, you know, because the first person that gets the ticket is often the person who lives in the neighborhood, who's been parking in this situation or whatever it is. And then what this would then turn into is, well, that individual then calls, and that's also a violation, and that's a violation. And so when you start picking and pointing out every single violation, it gets really challenging for us to say, well, we're going to enforce this one, but not that one. Well, this. So it's really kind of a slippery slope when it comes to that. And although, yep, we could absolutely do it, and we could absolutely kind of look at exactly what we're citing for. But it's just a matter of making sure. I would never want to go down the road of not trying to balance, you know, and making sure that we're doing everything we can to accommodate the citizens who are living here, who have lived here, because again, this city was not designed for the number of cars.
No, and I think we talked about this in the West Ward some time ago, being that it's populated by a lot of apartments that in general leave out a lot of cars.
That's right.
And henceforth, especially when we come to our stop signs, let's look at 9th and Washington Street, where we have a you know, people coming from different directions, and they're out there past the yellow. And we try to be cognizant of that, but at the same time, we run into exactly what you're saying.
Right, and that's and those are the things that if we see or if we get a call and it's something that is okay, this is a safety issue, this is definitely something that has to be addressed. Then those are the things that we have been addressing, but there are a lot more that, by the letter of the law, we probably could address. You know, you start getting tape measures out and figuring out exactly how close you can be to a fire hydrant or a corner and those things. Yeah, we could probably dig into those a lot deeper, but I think that again, I think that would make it really challenging. You'd lose a lot of spaces, and I don't know where those individuals would go, and that's kind of the challenge that we'd have to. So I guess the answer to your question is, yep, we can absolutely do it. I think we just would have to do it strategically to make sure that we're still balancing.
And I appreciate that, and that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to just run through neighborhoods and take it right.
Absolutely.
But when they become safety hazards, and talking to Dave Hopkins, there's a plan going into next year to paint more corners yellow.
Like Wolf Avenue.
Right. We've done some.
Wood Avenue,
Wood
it
Avenue,
works
Wood
really
Avenue.
well. That works really well.
We've done some on College Hill, but the problem is you still have some people parking on it. So the paint isn't enough. We need to enforce it. So I just want to make sure we're mindful, not just going through ticketing and everything, but if there is a safety, if cars are parked too far out, that we're, even if we give a warning first, right? So they know that we're going to start enforcing, I'm fine with that. But, balancing that safety with not over ticketing, I know it's a fine balance, but 10th and Ferry, we're getting complaints, and we ran a second traffic study recently, and we're noticing that cars are double parking in front of the hydrant at the laundromat. And then when they're coming out of Ferry, they can't see around it, they're pulling out, and that's when they're getting T-boned. So, I mean, if we could just be more cognizant of that, and I think that'll help.
I'll have conversations, and we'll try to figure out a plan going forward and make sure that we we kind of readdress that issue. We haven't done that in some time, so.
Thank you, Chief.
Specifically, there's an intersection that I have to negotiate almost every day, and it's 10th and Lehigh. And those corners get parked up. I've seen vehicles park all the way, where they're supposed to be parking, angle parking, they're parking head on, but the next one will park right on Lehigh Street, so the whole corner is obscured. But the problem for me is that I have to get almost out to the middle of 10th Street before I could see approaching traffic, and because it's such a wide thoroughfare, people come down there pretty fast.
Yeah.
That is a tough area. I understand and appreciate the balance. I think most of, and many of us have talked about it before, the complaints we get are more for safety, parking close to a corner. The double parking, even downtown, can be pretty atrocious at times. And I've seen so many people almost get hit. And especially when you see kids running around, that's probably the biggest concern.
Yeah, there's no disputing the corner. Up on College Hill, I see it frequently as well. Even fire hydrants where they're not in front of a fire hydrant, but how close are they to the fire hydrant? So there are a lot of things, but the corners are definitely something where even parked at the proper distance can still be challenging. Even for the angle parking, you're still coming out pretty far, and so I definitely understand the concerns for sure. And again, this is something I think is just a matter of sitting down, figuring out exactly how we want to kind of move forward and addressing that with our officers again. But again, as I sit in front of you, I take full responsibility for where and how we enforce right now, because that's pretty much at my order as to this balance that we've been trying to strike. So if really taking a harder look at the safety stuff is what we need to do, then that's what we'll do.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. And I have to say, thank you and your team. Even when you were away, your team was able to help out with certain situations, and I always appreciate that partnership.
There's some really great men and women in that department, and from top down all the way through, it's a great department. We're going to be very young. I did the math, and I think when I leave in a couple years, I think I would have hired at that time 43 of the 63 officers that'll be there as chief. So it's a young department for sure, but nonetheless, I don't think you're going to find a better one anywhere. So it's a bunch of really good officers over there working really hard. So
And the good youth is great, right? And they also had time to be under some of the senior officers, so
Correct.
they
A lot of
learned some good
experience and
things.
seniority, though.
Huh?
You lose experience.
Yeah.
Seniors have an experience.
But my point was, they had the opportunity, a lot of them, to learn under the senior officers, to learn how they've been doing it. Because as the mayor says all the time, I remember what our department used to be compared to what it is. So they're learning under that. So I think they'll be ready to take over when.
absolutely, it's going to be young, and that's, again, there's challenges with that, but also with that youth comes excitement and
Right.
and energy towards the job. They wouldn't be here if they weren't really good people, to begin with, and so as we put them out there, they've done really well, and I'm thrilled to hear that. Obviously, when I was away, that they were, and I had no doubt that would be the case, but I appreciate that. So I'm glad that was going on. But yeah, so it's the department's doing really well, and excited for the future, and it's in really good hands for sure.
Any other questions for Chief Scalzo?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Dwayne. Planning and codes.
If I may just ask, after Dwayne has finished, we did want to touch on parking revenues, so we'll let Dwayne go.
All right, hello everybody. Dwayne Tillman, Director of Planning and Codes.
If you're listening,
it up there?
please, sir.
get you the next one. Yeah, you want to go to just the department structure? So this year, we lost our supervisor for our department, which we had an internal candidate jump into the junior foreman position. So Anna was bumped up into the junior foreman position. And then, Louis, is there any way you can go to the next slide for me?
Oh.
Please, Mark left. All right, so right now, the department has 11 people. We're down 2 code officers and 1 clerk. The 1 clerk's gonna be hired. She'll start November 3rd. We have a code officer starting the 31st. So going into the new year, we'll be down to 2 code officers. We were able to hire Jarrett, who's gonna be Joe Gill's replacement. He's fitting in really well with the department. He's coming along pretty quick in learning all the ins and outs for our festivals. He's coming from Allentown, so he's got a really good background.
How many years did he have in Allentown?
5.
Okay.
Plus, he was like the head supervisor inspector up in Allentown, so he was able to train the 4 people that were under him.
Okay.
So, all right. Do you want to go to the next slide there, Mark? All right. So we'll talk about revenues for 2025. Our rental permits are up $102,000+ this year, and the reason behind that is because of our 1 clerk, Evelyn. She really dug down and went after people with late fees or unregistered rentals. So I got to give her kudos. She did a great job really hammering that down. I mean, there's still other people out there that haven't paid, but we're trying to track them down and get them to register their rentals. As you might notice, our hearings are up for zoning, planning. So we do have an increase of $32.50 in our hearing fees. Quality of life tickets are up right now, over $2,813. We strive to get compliance without really giving them quality of life tickets, but we always end up issuing quality of life tickets when they do not comply. Some of the expenses coming up this year, we're going to anticipate an internal budget transfer just to cover some of the zoning hearing board notices. You guys might be aware that there's only one place to put it into public, and that's Morning Call. And I think one publishing costs between $1,700 to $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
So it's
Why
getting a
is
little
Morning Call
crazy.
the only one?
There's no other paper.
Everything else is online.
Valley,
No, it's
Everything
got to
else
be
is
hard.
on
It's got to be hard
there.
paper.
we're trying to get that passed, that we can do electronically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And I completely agree. They need to get with the times here. There's going to be anticipated internal transfer for some overages in the engineer architectural services. So that covers our Pannoni reviews, mostly our key codes, right? So key codes is out there. They're our third-party agency. They're doing all the commercial inspections, and then when James is too busy to do the residentials or he just doesn't have the time, they're out actually covering for our residential inspector as well.
Just to make sure everyone understands on that last part, so that is internally, Dwayne is able to balance
Within the budget,
overages,
yep,
right?
within
So
the budget.
because of some underruns that he has.
Yep. Thanks for that clarification. Mark. All right, some overviews for the 2026 budget. Permanent planning revenue is going to be a slight uptick for anticipated and steady development activity. We have about 10 projects now on the books that are going through the process, and that's not including all the smaller ones with people getting the roofs done, renovating, kitchens, bathrooms. We didn't put those in there, but they are in the total. So we're going to have a pretty much streamline that's going up still because everybody wants to come to the Lehigh Valley still. Everybody wants to develop in Easton, which is not a bad thing. Residential rental permits are going to increase just because of all the new residential units that are coming online. If everything goes as planned for next year, which I was being conservative with my numbers, and everything was built out and finished by 2026, which it probably won't be, we're looking at 509 rental units coming online, but I was conservative with 300 as far as an increase on permit rental fees, which equates to about 23,000 in rental permits. Some expenses, just a regular contractual agreement with AFSMI employees. The majority of our team is AFSMI employees. And then I do have an increase of 35,000 to cover the key codes inspections, the Pannoni inspections, the inspections that we don't think about throughout the year. That will just help so I don't have to internally move money around if we can kind of cover it in the forefront instead of, because there's been this gap for the last 3 years where it's about 35 to 45. So I'm just trying to cover that gap. And I think that's pretty much it for the department.
What is key codes up?
I am when I'm available. I'm still doing inspections.
Let me ask, the question was, does Dwayne still go out and do inspections?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I'm a working director. If somebody needs an inspection done and we can't get someone out there, I'll make time to go out there just so that the project's still moving along.
let's go back to the org chart real quick. I just want to also note something. Go back one more. Okay, so, and right now, Dwayne, you're also the zoning administrator.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's just a vacant position that we have. I just wanted to make sure we highlight that.
Okay.
That's all. And I do appreciate you going out there. So right now, you and James are the two that can handle the commercial inspections.
That's correct.
Okay, and then obviously residential inspections.
That's correct. Yep.
How's the rest of the team look? Because it's pretty young in terms of tenure here.
So they're still within their first year or two where they're still required to get another certification.
Okay.
So we're working on that. Not everybody always pans out to get it, but I mean we're striving and give them every avenue to kind of excel at that. So
Okay.
Dwayne, is there any opportunity for them to have that certification done in-house where we bring people here?
so I mean I give them ample practice tests.
So you
Anything
give it to them all?
anything that studies online, if they want to do an online course, I kind of like just give them whatever they need that they feel comfortable to take the test, and then we do an online proctor test in-house, so it's not like they have to leave anymore. We used to have to go up to Person View up in Allentown to take the test.
Yeah.
So now they set a date, they take time for the conference room, and usually it's like half a day, and they sit in there and take their
Oh,
test.
well,
So.
you pretty much prep them for it then. That's
Oh,
pretty good.
yeah.
That's great.
Yep. Yeah, we have one-on-ones or we have conversations about certain sections if they're not understanding it. The last thing I want is I want them to pass.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
so it kind of
Great to
gives
hear.
them a better background of things.
We can go to whoever wants to. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Thanks, Dwayne.
And then what were you saying, Mayor? You were saying?
How many you have 5 now?
We'll have 6 on October 31st, Moses starts, and then we'll have 2 vacant positions that'll be filled next year.
Yes. No, I asked about key codes. What are we paying key codes to do commercials?
So it's $85 per inspection. So typically, a monthly bill that comes in from Key Codes could range between 11,000 to about 14. It all depends on how many inspections.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on how many inspections are going out. And I'm still working with them to kind of hone in on either the missed inspections or the double inspections so that we can make sure that we're passing that fee on to the developer or the permit holder.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dwayne? Any questions about the budget? Generally?
No.
That we can discuss tonight?
Well, if we could cover
You want to go over?
parking.
Thank you,
Park-
guys.
Some of the parking.
Thanks,
sure.
Dwayne.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, give me
Or
just a
Lewis.
minute.
Well, what we want to do is just go over right now parking, go over a sensitivity analysis that Mark put together, so then you can contemplate it. We don't have to make a decision today, we just want to present it to you, take a few minutes, and then we can adjourn. So,
No,
Mark,
but
why don't,
we can't adjourn.
Mr.
Well-
Bidwell has something.
well,
You
then,
always want to adjourn.
no, from our
I
presentation,
know.
I don't have the authority.
Oh, wait, so To start, you'll see that there was a large increase in parking meters. So this line here of about 22%, and that was because the budget proposed increasing parking meter rates to $2.75 for, I would say, the non-key meters, and then basically everything around the circle would be at $3. So that's why that has gone up by 22%. And as it was noted, I did do a sensitivity analysis to see where that all lines up as we ratchet that up or down. In addition, we also want to talk about the parking rates for the daily parkers. So this would be the daily parking for the intermodal is seeing a large increase, and also daily parking at the 4th Street garage is seeing a smaller increase, but I think that's that may vary. There may be some shifts between the two. And that is driven by, in essence, the one rate for all, if you will. Right now we have seasonal rates where in the off-peaks season, so basically when visitors from out of town tend to be here or don't tend to be here, we have set aside cheaper rates. In addition, there are rates for 50 cents an hour starting at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So it is a bit tricky to manage. So we're proposing that those rates be set at $2.50 per hour. And so I do also have an analysis for that, so we can go into that. Okay, so looking at the garages, and please forgive me, this is kind of a working model. I can send a view of this to you, but in short, what I did is I looked at the last year available. So going back to because the 4th Street garage came online later, so from the point that the 4th Street garage came online to most recently, I think it was through March of this year. So we went April of last year to March of this year. We looked at basically the hours that were in and tried to forecast what that usage would be basically at these new rates, right? So at $1.50, this is what we would see for both 3rd Street and 4th Street garages, $1.75, $2, $2.20, etc. So I can share this with you so that you can see what the change in the rates are, or if you'd like to see any other rates. That's rather easy to just plug in here, so please let me know.
So let me jump in real quick. So where the arrow's at, the green arrow, that's where the budget is balanced. So if you start there, you see that at $2.50, the budget is balanced. Now, if you move over to the left at $2.25, the difference between the two columns I and H, which is $78,000. If you lower to go to $2.25, you see the $78,000 in column H21, cell H21. So now you would have a negative. You would have an unbalanced budget by $78,000. All right. So you would have to find where to get that $78,000 from. We're just starting you off with this. We're going to email this to you guys, and then you can call us and ask us questions. But we wanted to provide this view. It's going to take a lot more thought than just looking at it this right now. So we want to give this to you so you can think through this. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
So then you can do the sensitivity analysis and say, well, I want to go to $2. I want to go to $2 a rate, or I want to go to $1.75. Well, when you get to 2 and 175, you'll see you have to find at the bottom row there either 156,000 or 234,000 to balance the budget. Because by going down on the rates, it's going to be.
You got to make that up.
You got to make that up. So we wanted to run this by you. You can look at the numbers in the budget. That's a little simpler to look at, but then you got to run the sensitivity analysis, and this is what Mark put together here. So you guys can go ahead and play around with the numbers, so to speak.
Okay, so this one's even worse eye chart. My apologies. Maybe I can blow it up and then we can scroll over a bit. So what we have here is basically every block in the city and all the parking meters, parking lots, etc. And what we did is similar to what I'd mentioned about the parking garages. Looked at what our annual amounts were for 2024, and then said, okay, if we now change the rates from there, what does that look like going up? So we have several different iterations there, starting with a flat $2, $2.25, $2.50, $2.50 and $3. So again, prime real estate would be $3, $2.50 for the others, $2.75, and then the budget is balanced here at $2.75 for the non-prime and $3 for the prime. And the prime spots are highlighted here in yellow. So just to designate them as those areas that are going to be a little more expensive. And then if you were to go to $3, flat rate for everyone, $2.75, $3.25.
Let's leave it at the budgeted, which is the green amount.
Yep.
All right. So similarly at the bottom, you can see the difference and then what you would need to budget. But the green is where the mayor's budget is at, the green arrow. So when you're looking at these two worksheets, again, you can ask us questions. And that's the point. Focus on the green arrow, and then you have to balance the budget. Okay? So, and of course, you can ask us to run different scenarios. Now, let me just make a comment on something. When we looked at this, the point of this, taking a step back, is not, we had to balance the budget. That's in the charter. But I think the big picture is the paradigm shift, where our garage rates are lower than the on-street meters, all right? And that is the paradigm in the industry. We were reversed, so we had to change it. And then the second thing is what that does, especially for the higher rates in these prime spots, it should create turnover. You should have more turnover on those spots. And that's good for retailers. And that's not just me speaking on it and working with the mayor. That's also an industry standard when you're looking at popular cities, all right, cities that are a destination. So in collaborating with Bethlehem, we see the same thing. I reached out to Bethlehem and I talked to our other counterparts. That's the theme. Now, you could fall wherever you want, on that spectrum, like in terms of pricing wise, but the paradigm is that your on-street parking should be higher than your garage parking. It's the paradigm. And that's just an explanation. So I wanted to bring that out and let council understand that. I think that's as much as we want to talk about parking. And Mark will send this out to everyone.
Be happy to.
Yeah.
Mr. Pittibone.
Thank you, Mayor. I first want to applaud the administration and the mayor for proposing a budget with a 19th year of no property tax increase, right? It's huge. Mayor, whatever mountain they put faces on for that, you'll definitely have your face on that mountain.
Why? So the pigeons can go to the bathroom on it?
No, but it's huge, and I appreciate all the work put into it. However, what I've expressed to the mayor and Lewis and Mark for 2 years now, I still have concerns of what the future holds, and I have concerns of us not staffing accordingly. These are my concerns. Seeing the growth, seeing the influx of people coming in, seeing our festivals beat record numbers every year, and just some shortcomings I see in different departments. So I want to thank Councilwoman Crystal Rose, who have met with me on Saturdays, and Lewis and Mark for taking the calls, the mayor. And I have some proposed amendments to the current budget. Starting off with parking. So when the mayor presented his budget of $3 an hour for the prime spots, $2.50 an hour, $2.75 an hour for non-prime, and $2.50 for the parking garage, the majority of the concerns that I've heard from the public were the $3 meters. Now I understand you have to raise your revenue somewhere to cover your expenses, which $1 million in healthcare alone we heard today. My proposal would be keeping all meters at $3 per hour and lowering the parking garage to $2.25 per hour. That would, I think, drive more to the parking garage. Now, with that change of the $3, it would increase the revenue to $286,000 a year projected. The decrease in parking garage from $250 to $225 would decrease $100,000. Additionally, I want the board to consider an increase in the transfer tax by 0.5%. East and Bethlehem and Allentown charge 1%, Reading charges 5% in the city, 2% around the city. Now, what that transfer tax is, individuals who buy and sell a home would be assessed another 0.5%. The estimated conservative increase to revenue on that would be $147,200 a year. The money, the revenue that I'm proposing to get from these changes would not just sit around, not pad a budget. One thing I'd like to do is hire additional revenue agent in the finance department. That would cover that salary. We have things on the books such as parking permits. We had some issues collecting tax downtown on some businesses. I know we're short in that department. This would cover that department. It would cover that position so we can follow through on the ordinance that we have set forth here in the city of Easton. Additionally, I propose adding an additional full-time police officer. That would cover an officer, and I think, Chief, that would be another year before they can come in by the time you get them through the academy and things like that. So that would cover us an additional police officer. Again, increasing the population, increasing our festivals. We're doing so well, and my concerns are not increasing our services, not increasing police, fire, whatever, that we need to make sure we're keeping everybody safe and protected in the city, whether they live here or they're visiting. Additionally, my proposal would increase or add a full-time parking enforcement officer. It would also allocate funds for the city's comprehensive plan. So I have a little discrepancy with the mayor, and I'm waiting for Trevor to get back to me. I'm being told that the comp plan, which everybody wants to see, updated comp plan regarding development in the city, parking requirements, we have to do a comp plan. My understanding is going to cost about $190,000 for us to do. I was told the grant we applied for only gives us 40. Mayor says it's 90. So I'm waiting for Trevor to get back to handle that discrepancy. My proposal would allocate another $150,000 so we can get that comprehensive plan done. That's a one-time shot. After this year, after we do the comprehensive plan, that's $150,000 that we can use for positions or whatever we need to do. The overall estimated impact would be $318,200 in expenses versus $333,200 in revenue. So there's a slight $15,000 positive there doing this. I think it's important that we look out past this year, past next year, and even the third year, vision where we're going and what we're going to need. I don't think cutting services or balancing a budget just enough to get by to cover the expenses is the way to go. We need to start looking at the future and preparing for the future so we're not faced with double-digit tax increases in year 4, 5, or 6, which I think would really hurt the people. The administration and the mayor, you guys done an amazing job for 18 going on 19 years, and I feel that we can implement this without ruining your record, Mayor, of tax increases, which I think is huge. But we need to start looking at providing the services with this influx of people and everything else we have coming. So I will email everybody a copy of this, and I'm hoping we can discuss it further.
The bigger plan is not my record. The bigger plan is that developers are not going to spend $100 million on the development if the taxes go up every year. They know what their taxes are going to be, so they said, okay, we'll develop in Easton. Development wasn't taking place, it was Allentown and Bethlehem, period. It wasn't taking place in Easton because our taxes were going up every single year by 4 or 5%, sometimes even more. I think that you cut your expenses and you spend what you take in, and you can't keep charging senior citizens in this city, there's 5,500 of them, you can't keep charging them money. They're on fixed income. So even if your taxes only go up $150, that's $150 that they take from prescription drugs or their food. I I'm against raising taxes because we're the highest in the Lehigh Valley.
Well, Mayor, to be clear, I applaud you for it. I'm not saying, I know why you're doing it, but I applaud you for it because it takes work to get there, right? So I know why you're doing it, which is why I didn't propose a tax increase, but I'm proposing it doing it this way because I think we need to continue or provide better services. Where our finance department is already short. We're missing out on revenue and opportunities that we should be looking at, that we should be doing. Our police department is doing exceptional, but it takes so long from the time you advertise to go through the process, send to the academy, bring them back before they get on the street. We need to be looking at that now. My concern is just doing enough to cover current year expenses doesn't put us in a good position for the future. My big concern, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, Mayor, but my big concern is getting slapped in a couple of years with double-digit tax increases because I know our seniors can't handle it. And we need to prepare for that and prepare for the downside as much as we prepare for the upside.
I agree some parts of that. I agree the fact that we do have to look at what our future is going to look like as far as we're going to have more and more people down living in the city of Easton. I disagree to think that we're going to be in a position where we have to even look at taxes. What some of the projects that we did in the past are now coming online, and we're going to be collecting EIT from them. So based on just looking at the EIT numbers, we should be looking at hiring more police officers, putting more people. My biggest thing is putting more people in the offices here, in the building too. I can't wrap my head around thinking that we're going to have to tax people, especially our seniors. They already got enough problems worrying about if they're going to have Medicare and Medicaid and paying their bills, to put another burden on them. And I know this is a state problem, but I wish we get to a point in our taxes that we can eliminate our seniors from certain taxes, whether that's school district tax for, they don't have no kids in school. Why are they paying for kids that are not even in school, been out of school 20, 30 years? I understand the fact that that is not a city problem, but it's certainly a problem that we can certainly talk to our legislators about. That's just my head. I'm trying to wrap my head around all these things are happening right now in Easton, and some plans are more happening, bring more revenue to us. I think we should be in a good place, but we need to really, as Councilman Penamon said, look at what we're going to do in the future. We can't sit on it. We got to start projecting what we're going to be doing.
I agree. We have to start planning for the future. I think living downtown, it's evident that we have so many people moving in, and we're going to experience that in other neighborhoods as well as development continues. I just think in the future it's going to be interesting to see the forecast that comes out. I had the meeting with PFM today, and I know everyone else has theirs scheduled as well. It's eye-opening, and I'm looking forward to seeing their forecast because I think we're going to have to really spend some time looking at that. We can't keep increasing parking fees every single year to the point like there has to be a cap at some point. We can't keep plugging the budget with that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rose. To Mr. Brown's, Councilman Brown's point, I don't disagree with him on not wanting to tax, and that's why this plan that I'm proposing has no property tax increase, because I don't want to tax the seniors. My concern is for police, for example, Chief, we're operating around the same levels of officers as we did with a population of 26 that we're now doing slightly over 30. As far as your comment about the EIT tax, we're receiving projected revenue of EIT of 7.9%. Let's call it 8%. That's huge. But yet we're still cutting positions. We're still raising other fees. And that's with the EIT. I think if we sit back and wait on the EIT, it's going to be a problem. God forbid something happens, we get another pandemic or something in the next year, people decide not to move in here at that moment. Those EITs aren't coming. The buildings are going to be wonderful for us once they come 100% online, but you're looking at 2035, 2036, 2037. So I think we need to prepare. If we prepare and we're still having another great 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you could look at maybe cutting tax rates and doing different things. But use EIT, 8% is huge. I don't know if it's going to grow 8% again in the next couple of years or each year. And we still had to cut positions. We still had to raise meters higher than anybody wanted to. We still had to raise parking passes for the residents that live downtown who've been here for years. It's a burden. So I appreciate everybody's conversation or comments about not raising taxes on the seniors. I agree 100%. My parents are still here who are now seniors, or retired. I agree with it. And that's why I'm not proposing any property tax increase. But we have a duty to the people to maintain order and provide services. And unfortunately, we have been lacking on providing some services, at least for the last 2 years that I've been here. And I know it's staff shortages, and I totally get it. The staff we have is amazing. From City Hall down to Public Works to the water, they're amazing, but they can only do so much. And I think that we need to start looking at that. As we grow, so must our services, and we need to start planning that now, putting things in place for that now. That's all I have, Mayor.
I believe that anybody who wants to move into a city sees 24.95 mils, and every community around us is at they're in single digits. They're going to move there, not here.
Mayor, I agree, but I don't know what we're talking about. I'm not increasing the property tax millage rate.
No, I know that. but
Yes,
you're
I'm not talking about that.
But you're not. I know, but the problem is we're already at 24.95 mils,
Correct.
and we have less people living downtown than we did in 1960.
Correct.
3,500 people lived in this city in downtown. We displaced 3,500 people. Where are they at now? They're in Palmer, Bethlehem Township, Forks. They're not in Easton. They're not in the city.
I get it. I'm just lost on the point. I'm not understanding what we're talking about. I get it though.
It's hard to compare like decades ago to now because costs have increased so significantly and they continue to do so. I mean,
That's true.
look at our healthcare costs, 20% increase. We're not, in the minority on that. Whether you're in corporate or you're in a municipality, my day job or in this role, everyone's seeing those increases. We've had significant garbage costs and things like that as well. And we still have to pay fair salaries to attract the right workforce here as well.
The public expects government to be able to operate with the same amount of money they had the year before. I know that's not realistic. I know that. But it's what the public expects.
I think too, Mayor, part of it, and I agree with Councilwoman Crystal in reference to looking at where we are downtown today. I think if you go back 70s, 80s, people were starting to leave and go to the suburb. We're seeing a swing now on them coming back into the inner city. And henceforth, that makes us think about what is our future going to look like with services. We already know we need services in all the departments, but I think in talking with them last week in reference to our plan, I'm almost positive that everyone's going to say the same thing when it comes to that.
Well, speaking of PMF, I met with them as well last week, and I have concerns, and this is the only time in life I hope I'm wrong. In November, when they come to meet their 5-year presentation, I don't believe it's going to look good. I don't believe their 5-year projection is going to look good. I agree with the no tax. I love the no tax increases. From middle class myself to retired parents to a son with 2 children and a girlfriend coming up, I hit all spectrums of ability to pay. The no tax increases is huge. Is it the best financial decision for 18 years from a financial standpoint? I don't know. But I'm concerned with the report we're going to get in November that our outlook is not going to look
adding
great.
positions to this budget that don't touch public works.
They don't touch public works.
They don't. No, you're not going to have any extra people to cut grass. You're not going to have any extra people to do codes. You're not going to have any extra people to do street repairs and snow plowing.
Correct. Now,
those are not being. You're adding. I don't know how many positions. 6, 7.
Who? Me?
No, the total.
3. I'm actually a revenue agent, which will bring in more revenue because we've left a lot of revenue on the streets. We're just not fulfilling our obligation. Then a police officer and a parking enforcement officer.
The only way you have a revenue agent bringing in more money is put them on commission. They're just like a salesperson.
Well, at the end of the day, we have rules and we have fees that we have assessed long before me, and we're just not collecting it. We're just neglecting it. That's a problem. And when I talk to the finance, it's because we're short-staffed. Well, you know, we need to address that. We're talking about balancing budgets. We're raising fees. We don't want to raise taxes, but yet there's revenue out there due us that we don't collect because we're short-staffed. In your proposal, Mayor, we're cutting another person out of finance. You know, I just don't see how the city can grow while we continue to cut staff. It doesn't make sense on any level that I can see. You know, I again, what you've done has been amazing for somebody who's lived here, raised here generationally. What I've seen in my lifetime in Easton is huge. It's amazing, but we can't be blinded to the fact that there are going to be rainy days coming. You know, we're depending on revenue from EIT. That's great, but we just heard that we could potentially see 20% increases on healthcare every year. We just hit 8%, which is huge on EIT. So let's say we double it to 16%, which is crazy next year. You're not even touching the increase in healthcare that hit 20%, right? And now you have all these other people coming in, and we're operating with the same level of police officers. I just don't think it makes sense that we can operate at 26,000 and 30,000 with the same amount of emergency personnel. Now, I do agree with Public Works. And if these projections are low, which I put them extremely conservative, I think they will exceed. But plus the 150 that we put to the comp plan, that year, that's a one-time shot. That money can go increase public work directors next year with another no tax increase to put more people in our DPW department, which, as you said, Mayor, we desperately need. Now, I didn't want to put that in here now or look at that in case we don't exceed, which I learned from you, in case we don't realize the revenue. Then we're operating at a deficit. So I think this is a safe plan to not increase property taxes, to do better with providing services and safety. Once we see once we see the revenue, we realize.
Why do you have an increase in the police department?
Why do I have an increase in the police department? Because I think
Based on population?
but there's a need for it. Yes.
So the 52 to 63 that we put in, we added 11 to the base when we were here in 2009.
2009, right?
And 2009 we had roughly 2,000 less people.
Right.
Maybe 3.
But 2009, Mayor, to 2000.
We also had all the gang activity and violence. The police department's done a great job of not having. We decrease crime every year.
We do, but how long can we continue to operate the same levels without thinking forward and just doing enough to get us through the current year without a tax increase? I don't, and I say this, and I have so much respect, Mayor, you know, for you, Louis, Mark, but I feel it's very short-sighted financially, and I don't know how we can continue to do that. You know, thank God we had ARPA funds come in. And I hate to say it, thank God you had COVID. If we didn't have ARPA, we'd be in a bad way. And we can't depend on something like that to come again. We need to plan better. Our financial management needs to be better.
COVID wasn't good for the city.
No, the ARPA funds that came with it was good.
The ARPA funds weren't good either. All it did was replace what we lost.
Plus a little bit.
Amusement tax, casino revenue, and parking went down 200-300% each.
Louis,
we lost what?
The numbers
$11
of
million?
lost versus brought in from COVID, from ARPA funds, the amount lost, amount come in. Mayor, we took $3 million to put towards affordable housing. We wouldn't have had that without ARPA. We wouldn't have been able to put $3 million to affordable.
We put $11 million into our general fund.
Right.
Well,
and then 3 to housing. What I'm saying is, you know, is Trump going to give us ARPA money? God forbid something happens again.
You're not
right.
getting any money from him.
So all I'm saying is, without increasing taxes, we need to be smart and make sure we're increasing services. Right? I think I should never lick the scales though when I brought that up. I'm not going to get serious now. But I just think it's good business. I think we owe it to the people to start planning for the future. And personnel is cutting personnel. I don't think makes sense. Next year, if we go up another $2 million, we can't raise meters. We don't want to raise taxes. What can you cut? We can't cut anything. I can't continue to cut public works. I can't continue to cut city hall staff our directors are severely underpaid with our counterparts. And I understand we're a smaller city and everything, but every one of our directors can pack up and leave tomorrow and make 30 to 40% a year more. They stay. Cutting staff and putting more work on the directors isn't the answer. They're going to leave. I know it's a hard conversation. You know, nobody wants to have the conversation, but it needs to be had.
It's not a hard conversation. The conversation is very easy, but raising taxes is very hard.
Again, I'm not proposing raising
This
taxes.
isn't the school district where we go up 3 to 4% whether we need it or not.
I need a board that lights up. This is no tax increase. I'm not proposing one. That's all where I'm hearing. I'm not proposing a tax increase.
You're saying in the future we might have to do that.
I think it's a possibility, so we need to do whatever we can.
And I
to
think when that
prevent
day
that.
comes, I would even make that recommendation.
Right.
But that day isn't here today. It's not here next year.
And that's why I'm not raising it today. And I'm saying we might be good for next year.
But you're increasing. The people you want to hire are here forever. They're not here just for 1 year. It's not a one shot.
Correct.
They're here every year.
And we're basing it on parking by increasing one but lowering the other and still having enough money to cover that extremely conservatively. I'm not using one-shot injections to pay for revolving expenditures. That's not what I'm doing.
Councilman Pintamon, is there can you please send us a proposal so we can look at it, because sometimes things look differently the way you are saying, because if the population is growing according to you, what that mean isn't just more people, right? It means like more pressure on housing, schools, and jobs, right? And social services. So when those systems start to restrain, you also see frustration and inequality. but those are community problems, not necessarily criminal problems. So no matter how many police officers you hire, they can't fix a shortage of affordable housing. So personally, I am not in favor of increasing the police force or police officers in the city of Houston. Not talking about the other services at this moment, but I will look into your proposal and see, where the money will come and how we can, accordingly spend.
Just for clarity, the increase in population isn't according to me. It's where we're at. We're at what, Mayor? 30,504. 30,504. We were at 26,000 a few years ago. So it's not according to me. It's just documentation of the population growth.
I get that, but my point is not that. My point is it's not necessarily criminal problems.
I'm not saying, Councilwoman, I'm not saying.
I'm not in favor of hiring more police officers. I mean, because they cannot fix the other problems like affordable housing or lack of or job insecurity.
You're absolutely right. The police can't do anything with affordable housing. I understand. My concern is safety. Forget about the residents. We just had record numbers in Garlic Fest. Drinking, this, that, people that aren't from here. We're going to keep having better. Downtown is packed every night. People are paying good money to live in Easton, whether to purchase a house, to pay for rents, affordability, what have you, and people want to feel safe. And we need to be operating on higher levels if we're increasing people. It's not. I don't know how to explain it. I mean,
no, I totally understand that. I understand your point. Like, if the population is growing, yes, we need more need more officers for public safety. But at the same time, increasing population or having bigger events doesn't mean it's a criminal problem. There are more issues that we should be concerned about. Our priorities should be, people, not police.
But the people.
We can utilize the police officer that we have to provide a proper public safety.
But Councilwoman, Councilwoman, my concern is we're operating with the same amount of police officers when we had 26,000 people as we do with almost 31,000 people. And with that increase, I'm proposing to continue to provide safety throughout the entire city and for the amount of people we have. I'm not looking to hire 10 or 12. I'm asking for one to cover an increase of population of 4,500 people, one officer for 4,500 people. As far as affordable housing and things, you know, we're moving forward. We're doing our thing. You're going to hear something coming up. We're going to announce from Shiloh. Like we're making moves to do affordability, but we still need to maintain safety for the people who are affordable, for the people who live downtown, who walk, who live in the West Ward, South Side. One police officer for 4,500 residents, I don't think that's a stretch.
Then how about,
Excuse me, Ms. Sultan, I just want to get this in.
sure,
I think that when we're talking about putting in one officer in, I get it, I get that. But in the reality, we have to be looking broadside more than that, because the fact of the matter is, we're talking public, the whole public. What are people going to want moving into Easton? They're going to want safety. They're going to want recreation. They're going to want the streets clean. They're going to want their guards removed. There's a spectrum of things that we got to think about, not
Absolutely.
just putting one person in place.
And to your point, Councilman, I agree, and that's why the 150 projection and the revenue, which I know we will realize more than projected. I talked to the mayor today as well as Lewis. That should go right to DPW next year to hire more staff in our public works. I'm also adding one more parking enforcement and a new revenue agent. So I'm not just, for whatever reason, Councilwoman, you're focusing on one police officer, but I'm looking to increase staffing on 3 departments this year and another one next year. So it's 3 different departments I'm looking to staff and a potential 4 next year. With our public works, with our plowing, our streets, and things of that nature. So, you know, and we could do it this year if we had the 150, but we need to do our comp plan because the residents want to see some changes in development and they want to have their say because we're in a different place. But that 150 will go to public works next year, and then whatever other revenue that comes in above what I'm projecting here will grow to create more positions and do more things with. But I can't do it all in 1 year, especially when we're not raising revenue that high. And police take the longest to get on the road. If we're going to hire somebody from Public Works, you put the ad out, you do the interviews, and you hire somebody. Same thing with revenue and everything else. Police, as we hear, it could be a year. If we vote on this budget at the end of December, it could be a whole year. We could be going into 27 before we get that police officer. So we have to plan accordingly.
how about, you know, I know we're talking about keeping our cities safe, right? But we are basically focusing on reacting, honestly, and responding to problems after they happen. How about shifting our energy toward preventing them in the first place?
I think that's what we're doing. We're talking about an increase of people coming and putting people in place so we're not reacting, we're proacting. We know more people are coming, right? We know the confluence alone, so we're putting revenue agent in place, parking enforcement, and police officer. That's being proactive. We don't have the problems yet, but you can kind of see the potential for them. The mayor's budget has $300,000 in it to put guards up so crazy people don't drive through our crowds. I mean, we haven't had that happen before. We're being proactive.
Yeah, you cannot wait until you have a problem or someone is killed. And I think that adding an additional officer is a great idea. I've had productive conversations with Chief Scalzo. You know, we need police walking downtown on the beat. We need to have that presence. You know, there are occasional incidents and things like that, and whether you're a visitor or resident, when you see that police presence in your neighborhood or downtown, you feel safer about coming here and living here. And, you know, and with an increased population, you do have more issues, whether the income level's higher or not. You have domestic violence and things like that. Don't discriminate at income levels. I expect to see more calls at some point for different issues, and we have to have someone available to meet those needs.
Going back to what Mr. Pintabone said, you know, about what actually I mentioned about reactions. versus proactive. My focus was not like hiring a police officer in advance, but my focus is to invest the same effort into basically creating a youth program that actually gives our young people direction and opportunity.
We have
Basically,
plenty of these programs. Our nonprofit partners in the city provide many programs, from the library to the Boys and Girls Club, the Easton Community Center, and many other programs out there. There are so many I can't even list them right now. I think it's not our job to create all of those programs, but support our community partners with that programming.
In addition, we just submitted for tax credits for Shiloh to build their community center on the south side again, or to build another community center. So I think, and the mayor's plan and vision is to build a new community center / senior center in the West Ward. So on top of what the school district's doing, I think we are doing something there. But, I think there's other services, Councilwoman, and we could disagree, but there's other services we need to look at. And police specifically, it takes so long. The last thing we need is to say you need to hire officers now, and we got to sit and wait a year. So we need to have the vision and start reacting on it. And again, we can do it without raising property taxes at all this year. And potentially, again, next year, with the revenue we generate here, we can use it next year to add more staff in the DPW or plug some gaps, God forbid we have to.
I get your point, but again, I'm putting on side the other public services. I'm not just in favor of hiring more police officers. Community advocates, community services, yes, absolutely, yes, but not police officers. We don't need more police force in this diversity.
Our police officers are
like
our community advocates. I think that they have a community-focused model, and I've heard from residents, and my own experience when calling in has been nothing but incredible. I think that the police officers handle even very sensitive issues. I had a neighbor whose mother had a dementia issue and wandered out of the house a few years ago, and their front door was open in the middle of the night. I mean, they handled that with such patience and grace, and that's just one of many instances. I constantly hear from residents how great our police officers are and how community-minded they are, and I served on the Civil Service Board for many years, and the chief has been very thoughtful about hiring practices and how he handles his team. So I don't think that looking at hiring a police officer is like bringing in like a force or something like that to harass people. It's to have more safety in place, and presence, I think, prevents bad things from happening.
I gotta agree with Councilwoman Rose. Mr. Campos and I were downtown, and there was a young lady having a mental episode. She was in the garbage can, down in the garbage can, hysterical. Sergeant Celia, is he a sergeant now? To watch Sergeant Celia deal with her, who he already knew on a first name basis, to comfort her, to get her out of there and get her to go to the hospital for help, was amazing the way he handled it. And I have to say, every police officer that I've seen, and I come from a different time in Easton, every police officer I see today, and I see their encounters or I deal with, are phenomenal and professional. And I think they do a lot of service as caseworkers do, and they handle some of these issues phenomenally. So I
think Councilman Pintabon, I'm not talking about how our police are performing, if they are doing good or not. That's not the concern. That's not the concern. They probably are doing a great job, and they are doing a great job. And also in both cases, what you and Councilwoman Rose mentioned, in both cases, I don't think so. I don't believe there should be police officers handling those cases. There are more serious cases. In those cases, that's exactly what I'm talking about, social services or community advocates, because they come handy in those kind of cases, in those kind of situations.
Okay.
If we want to have like more police advocate, community advocate that can be mediated between the police and the city hall, that would be wonderful.
I think that's across the board, the nation. I hear this over and over because I have family members who are officers in Philadelphia, and one of the things they always say is that they end up being case workers, case managers, and that's part of the skill set that you have to have.
Dr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as police officers are concerned. I mean, it does take a long time to get them on board. I do want to point out something, and just for your future thinking of how do we handle services. We have in the past oftentimes handled an increase in services through purchasing software or by, especially in the finance department. I remember when I first came on council, we were collecting taxes, we were doing all kinds of stuff. And what happened to that? That no longer is done here. So we didn't have to increase staff in order to do that. So I'm just pointing that out. I'm not right. But I think there are other ways than just increasing staff that we can take a look at and see how we can increase services with technology or increase services with you know, I'll say subbing out. I don't know, but I mean, you know, oftentimes that's another potential route in order to ensure that the services are there for the public.
So
I just wanted to point.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you'll hear soon that I brought in a third party to handle fire inspections, and that we're not 100% up on, right? And we're going to hear about that. So I do agree with outsourcing. I do agree with software, but there's also not a replacement for every position with software. So I do think we should look at it. But I think there's certain positions that you can't just replace with software.
And I agree.
So I think all of that together, we can look at. But again, under this plan, and we can tweak it or whatever. You know, it's up to the council. But there's going to be at least 150 left over for next year that maybe we look at software, right? But I would, as of now, I'm saying go to DPW. And I'm also thinking that our revenue, based on the numbers we're seeing in parking, I really undershot my estimated revenue, right? And I believe we're going to far exceed that, which again, we can look at software and personnel and whatever. But I think we need to start making these investments into the staff, into city, whether it's software or whatever, going forward to maintain what we're seeing now and what we all love. That's all I have, Mayor.
Can I just ask one real quick question? You, I heard you say increase all parking meters to $3 an hour. Okay.
Except for the parking garage decrease to $2.25.
Right, but I mean the meters themselves.
Yes.
Just a quick question, implementation wise on that is, I think that there's not a lot of people going around with $3 or $6 in quarters in their pockets, you know. Yeah, and you know, I'm just a question, how well is our current system functioning for people to go through whatever means they have, credit card or an app or whatever? How well is that functioning?
Well, the chief today in our staff meeting said the 3% that we pay is increasing because more and more people are using charge cards.
Oh, okay.
And that 3% is included in, we pay it. As you know, at some of the restaurants we go for breakfast, they add it on if you use a credit card.
Oh, yeah.
Or I can say that the move to having one system that regulates the meters, so obviously there's coins, but then the credit cards and the app are all through IPS. They're the same manufacturer of the meters, and I'm sure that the chief can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here. But I think that that's made it easier as far as the flow through to us, and for, I think, individuals, for people coming to visit. You know, you could just swipe your card, no issue, and then the app has been running as far as I know without any issues. We haven't had any complaints.
And let me just jump in, because when you talk about parking, you got to look at you know, all the different moving parts, right?
Talk to a parking mob boss.
Right. Well, and and I was just reviewing these numbers right now. Other than these peak times, which typically it's around state theater shows, and then some of our events, our garages are at 50% or less capacity. At night, you'd see as low as 16% on average, and then during the day, the average is about well, for the 4th Street garage, it averages more closer to a little bit north of 50%. Third Street garage is about 16%. You take peak times and then it messes that up.
And yet the
But-
public thinks we don't have any parking.
But then it dies, it's only during peak hours, so it's like peak hours. So the idea is, Dr. Ruggles, on the increase, going back to your point where I think you were asking about carrying quarters in your pocket. We all know this because we have seen this in the pre-COVID days and post-COVID days, because post-COVID days is bringing us to different types of discussions. Pre-COVID days, by the way, have been the growth in terms of our budget was slight, and in terms of the city and what we needed. And to your point, we could have efficiency gains with technology, but in some cases you can't outsource everything. But we've outsourced tax collection to, is it Berkheimer? Right. Keystone right now is one good example. And that's a good point. And I don't see 20% per se. I don't have a crystal ball. 20% increases in healthcare too. We had a blip on the screen because we had to make a lot of changes. All right. So in the PFM, I think report is going to be an eye opener. But even they'll tell you their assumptions are not as robust as like all the detail that staff would put together if we were to do that 5-year study, which we don't have time to do that. So it's good to have that outsource component. But going back to your point, the $3 increase is to help create turnover. You know, it's to take away that abuse that right now we have where individuals are parking on the meter all day. That's a problem. Right. So it's like it's addressing that issue and then helping drive folks to go to our garages where they're modern, they're brand new. Our garages are brand new. And the lowering of the rate, hopefully it's enough of a draw to, and other things that we have to do, because, you know, we come here, there's 250 employees that come to work every single day that are thinking about these problems. It doesn't stop or end at the dais. It continues every single day. So we're working through these problems. But this, I just wanted to bring that up since you brought the bring in a bag of quarters, et cetera. Because we are seeing a completely change in dynamic of that. And by the way, going back to your point, one real opportunity.
Go back to whose point?
To Roger's point on some savings in the future. One big opportunity is going to be at least I believe it's like a $75,000 to $100,000 savings, or maybe more every so many years, is not having meters in place. Not having meters and not having someone to have to go around and actually collect the coins. Actually, the two together could save us up to 6 figures annually. Eventually, like those that's a real savings, and those savings are coming because right now, as we're adding these parking lots into the parking system, they're not coming on board with meters that are to pay with coins, you know. So we're reducing that, and including reducing the need of having to have public works folks out there. Instead, we could have one PEO going through every 45 minutes to make sure that, you know, folks are paying. I know we had some issues this weekend, but eventually that's it'll materialize to be positive. So I just wanted to bring that up, that you are right, and we are working on some things. So when we see that presentation in early November from Public Financial Management, the world would stop if it was PFM, and same thing with the Walker study, looking at parking under just one lens. I mean, we come every single day to work on these things.
I mean, that's an excellent example. I mean, the technology of the license plate, readers, and, you know, you can drive around and do what the person that walked around used to do, you know, and so you just cover so much more territory, you do so much more, and it's just technology that we're implementing, you know, that in that sense. So yeah, I agree.
But I think your proposal, Mr. Pinnabone, what you prepared, does bring in immediately some positions that are useful.
And I don't want to get into discussion because we already discussed it. The mayor did a whole presentation on it, but we also, for the council, need to be mindful. We have some capital plans that need to be addressed. 3 fire stations, and an evidence building, and I think the three of us, you, Lewis, myself, and Mark, looked at about 16 million. We looked at the debt service a month, like 101,000 over 20 years. You have a pool that needs to be done this year for 1.5 million. So the expenditures are coming, and I just don't think we should wait until the bill's at the door to figure out a way to pay it. So that's only going to hurt the taxpayers, and I don't want to do that. But that's all I have. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for delving into the budget.
Mayor, I just want to remind everyone, we have a very important executive session tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock
Yeah,
tomorrow.
if you could talk to me about it. It's about the,
Water Authority.
that's right, it's about a sale of an asset. So, if you can get here at least a few minutes beforehand, we're gonna use the full hour, for sure. Thank you.
Do we bring
Thank you. Good night.
What's that?
Do we need the motion to adjourn, Mayor?
No.
No. All right.
Lewis, can we have sandwiches? That's in the budget, come on. I've seen the line, I don't. That's just Mark, and that's.
Karen, did you get skinny for me? Thank you.